what's up people, what's up people, what's happening? Alright, this is gonna be a good one. What's going on people? What's going on people? What's going on people? Alright, boom, let's get into it. This is all about Siteu and Modou Lo. It's about lamb. For most of you guys that don't know what lamb is, I'm gonna introduce you lot to the world of lamb. Now it's a combat sport which originates in West Africa, Senegal. It's predominantly wrestling, grappling, everything that incorporates boxing and MMA. If you're into all of that, watch this sport. And I highly believe that the concept of Black Panther, Wakanda, came from this, because if you look at the traditional culture in the fighting scenes, it all comes and stems from this. But furthermore, the only reason why I'm actually interested in this is because obviously I'm a sports athlete myself, and I train myself, so it's only right I follow sports, I follow boxing. I'm intrigued in this. But look guys, look out for this, because it's a banging sport. And we have the actual championship. I would consider a championship belt. It's actually the throne, it's the king of the arena. The king of the arena is the equivalent of a heavyweight championship belt, which is the VIP range. Now tomorrow we've got Siteu and Modou Lo going at it, and these are undoubtedly two really big timers. Modou Lo, obviously, he's had the championship belt up on the table twice. Modou Lo's obviously had he's obviously had to put up the championship belt twice, or the king of the thrones twice, because he's fought Modou Lo's fought Boigna and Amabale. So he's had two fights ever since he overthrew, I believe it was Emerson. So Modou Lo took the throne of Emerson, beat him, and obviously he's put up the belt twice against since he's won the throne of Emerson. Modou Lo's obviously he's put the belt on the line twice. Once against Amabale, once against Boigna, and since then he looks incredible. He looks impeccable in physique wise. I mean, the guy looks like, I don't know how he does it, because I think he's older than Boigna, and I believe he's older than Amabale. And even if they are roughly the same generation, he's been in the sports of Lamb for a lot longer. So it's amazing. I don't know how Modou Lo does it. So salute to Modou Lo. Kudos to the guy. He's amazing. Now Lamb it's exciting, guys. Look, you've got this new guy. He's a phenomenon. His name is Regreg. Regreg, he's a guy that has come from the trenches. He initially done traditional lamb. But traditional lamb is not like the usual lamb we're used to, where it's lutte avec frappe, which is like where you're allowed to punch your opponent and fist fight, and literally it's like boxing, all goes. MMA, it's like MMA/boxing/wrestling, if that makes sense, because you can grapple, you can punch, you can do all of that. But there's the way you lose is either by knockout or 4 points of contact. Now the whole 4 points of contact aspect is if your 2 feet or your knees touch the ground with your hands, or if your forehead touches the ground, then that's it. Your opponent's won. Now, the 4 points of contact rule for me needs to be overlooked, and we need to change it, because the 4 points of contact, and I believe some of the guys have spoken about this in Senegal, and I feel like it needs to be changed, and a new rule needs to be implemented, because 4 points of contact, after you've paid some of these fighters hundreds and thousands of pounds, or whatever, a CFA, whatever you pay them in Senegal, you get fighters turn up for such a big event like Modou Lo Siteu is a big fight. They turn up and within 1 minute the fight's over. Or look, there's certain things we're not going to talk about. Like a knockout is a knockout. In any world you go, a knockout is a knockout. KO is a KO. I mean, you get guys get KO in boxing in the third round, but in boxing you have 12 rounds to redeem yourself. In MMA, you get a chance to redeem yourself. You fall on the floor, it's either you tap out, or unless you get knocked out. But even in MMA, once you fall on the floor, it's not finished. You have to really soccer punch, that you really got to get it in. You got to choke them or something for your opponent to tap out, then it's done. Like, it's never done. A fight is never done till the fight is done. Because sometimes I feel like I could get paid £90,000 and just go into a fight and say, wow, and then just fall down. And now you just paid him, because some fighters don't have the heart in them. He might turn up tired, maybe he's not bothered, maybe he's not feeling it that day. I mean, I'm not saying anyone goes into the ring scared, because if a fighter's getting paid, then that's what he's doing for a career. I'm sure no fighter steps into the ring with fear in their heart. I feel like we need to look at that aspect. the 4 points of contact, cat appui, they call it cat appui. They need to change that rule. I feel like that part of Lamba needs to evolve. Make it a thing. If you get knocked out, like if you look at the fight with Emerson Modou Lo knocked Emerson out. You're not gonna have. You don't need. On n'a pas besoin de 3 rounds. Parce que KO c'est KO. It's finished. That's it. But if, for example, like if you look at the Balaguer Bombardier, that should have been another fight. If you look at, for example, personally, I'll be honest, guys, if you look at the Lac de Guerre Boigna, or you look at, even like you look at, for example, Modou Lo and the Gris Bordeaux fight, do you understand? Obviously, I'm not being funny, but I feel like some of these fights, you need to go again because match nul, like, which means obviously it's just nothing, it's 0-0. In a combat sport world, in the combat sport domain, it doesn't work. Whereas if it's like basketball, football, where it requires several players, then that's different. But when it's a one-to-one combat sport, I feel like there has to be an outcome. It shouldn't be indefinitive. So what I was trying to say is that's the only thing about Lamba. But other than that, it's a wicked sport. You've got Regreg, who is a phenomenon, as I said. He's just won the heavyweight MMA fight against Malikin, I believe his name is. I can't pronounce his name right. But prior to that, guys, he also fought against Buchacha. So Buchacha, one of them. All these guys got funny names. I've got a funny name, but hey, boom. Yeah, so Regreg came from traditional Lamba. He then traversed into the normal Lamba, which is what they call lutte avec frappe. And he done well. He succeeded, and he then went into MMA. Once he then transcended into MMA, he went through several phases, had a lot of successful fights. I think he lost to Bukaka, and then he obviously had this fight against Malekin, and he did well. So salute to Regreg and félicitations, vraiment. But other than that, a lot of Senegalese fighters are now transcending because if you look at Lamb, it's very similar to MMA. But look, guys, it's a wicked fight. Tomorrow you got Suba, Demain. It's Modou Lo Siteu, and it's going to be a wicked fight, guys. Tune in, and I've got a lot to say about this fight.
da ngeen ne le 24 novembre yaa ko fa am mais le 24 novembre li fa am mooy defet ñëw jël ko dellu jàmm gën incha allah.
yow le 24 novembre man maa lay tuma daan la.
loolu moom da ngay bégal say supporter rek ko daal ko di toppalaa sa bopp.
say supporter yow yaa ngi wax say wax man nga wax sama wax nga naa ma da ngay bégal say supporter. yow fexeel bis baa nga dëggal lool rek yow coppite lépp yow bis baa ñëw.
Right, guys, look, the fight, to me, to be honest, this fight here in particular, for the King of the Thrones, is one of the biggest, because what you've noticed is since Manga there, and then you had Yikini, and then you had Balaguer, and then you had Bombardier, and you had Emerson, obviously, and I'm not sure I don't think Tyson was ever, but look, the point I'm trying to make is, to me, Modou Lo Siteu is one of the biggest King of the Throne fights other than the Balaguer Yikini. Reason why, because to me, Balaguer Yikini was one of the biggest phenomena because Yikini had the throne for about 13 or 15 years. Modou Lo and Siteu, to me, other than Balaguer Yikini, is the second biggest fight for Les Rois des Arènes. Reason why, because when Balaguer took Roi des Arènes from Yikini, no one thought it was going to happen. No one believed it because Yikini had sat on the throne for so many years and he was just the strongest, the toughest and the meanest. Modou Lo currently, to me, is the toughest and the strongest and the meanest. He's not my favourite. I won't say he is. I'll keep that a secret. But I feel like Modou Lo currently is standing in the status of how Yikini was. And Siteu is currently positioned where Balaguer was when he was facing Yikini. Now, we're about to see a revelation. Est-ce que Siteu will he be able to show and prove himself? Est-ce que Siteu didn't prove it? And will Modou Lo also prove himself? Because will Modou Lo be able to sustain and maintain the Roi des Arènes against the new young guy? So what you have is Yekini, Balagay is what's come back again. And the reason why Siteu seems to be so irate and so tense and so upset, Siteu Metal, it's just that adrenaline. It's that rush, because you have, and I appreciate everyone, you have people like Lambalog, people like Lamin, Moda Anta, Babaka, all those guys, they're all wicked. You know, Mordemay, Bekambe, Bidam Yasin. No, honestly, I'm joking, but I'm not. We won't call him Bidam Yasin. What's his name? Bourgewell, Fadam 2. Fadam 2 has a name as well, but let's call them by their names. We won't call them Bidam Yasin and those names. We call them Fadam 2 and Bourgewell. Look, these guys have really shocked and promoted the fights, and we got to salute people like Jambar. We got to salute people like Eric Favre. We got to salute people like Lut TV. Reason why I'm mentioning these people, because they make it interesting for people like me to watch it, because I'm like, what's in this? Because when I see like Jambar being innovated, Jambar Productions and whatever they called, or Eric Favre or Lut TV, I'm seeing like the world of Lambert is elevating to higher levels, and that's where we want to be, people. That's what we want. We want to elevate. Now, away from that, it's like I said, these two fighters to me represent what Yekini and Balagay did. To me, this is one of the biggest fights for Les Rois des Arènes. Lamberby, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to be very exciting, very intense, and it's basically experience versus the new generation. That's all it is. Siteu, if he beats Modou Lo, is because he has something to prove. God's with him. The people are with him. The Sere people are with him. He's got ambition. He's got heart. He's hungry. Modou Lo, if he wins, is because he's got the experience. Modou Lo's been there before. He knows what it's like to fight for the championship belt twice, 3 times over. He knows what it's like to have a big fight and have your big day. He knows what it's like to be around. And not to say Siteu doesn't, but it's just a whole different feeling when you've got the belt on the line or when you've got the throne on the line. So yeah, it's undoubtedly going to be a massive fight, guys. And I keep saying it because, not to be funny, it's like the tensions are rising. And if you look at the last 2 fights of the two, and I think about the face-to-face, because if you look at the face-to-face that they had, Fatma Jah, I think, is one of the journalists, and the journalist did a superb job, but you had one of the female journalists, I think her name is Fatma Jah, she asked Siteu a question, Danamel, or something like that, and Siteu was like, are you upset? And Siteu responded like, I ain't upset. But then later on, Modou Lo goes to ask him the same question, and he says to him, well, a similar question, but in reverse, he says to him, and he said, Kontanuma. So it's like there's a reflection of energy there. It's like, I'm not happy and I'm not upset. Meruma, Kontanuma. Fatma Jah Ladnala. Siteu was like, Meruma. Because the energy seemed so irate and so intense. But I can understand it. That's adrenaline talking. He just wants to fight. It's that Anthony Joshua versus, why am I forgetting his name? Dubois. It's the same fight, because he just wanted to fight. He just wanted to eat Anthony Joshua. He was like, I just want to fight. Siteu just wants to fight as well. It's the same thing with the last AJ Dubois fight. AJ Dubois was the same thing. AJ was experienced, and Dubois just was like, I don't want to talk. Forget the face-to-face. I just want to fight. Dubois, the Meryl one. You put it in your khalad, the Meryl one. Dubois, he just wanted to. Il voulait juste la bagarre. C'était tout. But Siteu is on the same thing. A lot of people seem to think he's upset Meryl. But he kind of contradicts himself, because I'm no lumute. And I say to Siteu, if I advise Siteu, Lumuke advise. Honestly, I would say Siteu, use that fire, because in one of the videos, Siteu mentions, I think he talks about the distance being long in a long distance relationship with his wife and his kids. And I can understand that. It's hard, because as a man, being in a long distance relationship with your wife and your kids, and being distant from your wife at any given time, and you leaving your wife abroad and having to go to another country and having to struggle and survive, or whatever it is, or you being in your hometown and they're over there. It's hard. It's hard. I understand it. But do you know what I would say? On the flip side, Siteu, dafa war a jël loolu and he uses that as positive energy. Siteu su duggee si arène bi on tomorrow suba demain quand il s'arrive, à mon avis, ce que je pense moi, en fait, Siteu dafa war a jël énergie boobu noonu and he should use it. Ok, sama doom mi ngi États-Unis, sama jabar mi ngi États-Unis, c'est ce que je vais faire. I'm gonna fight for them. So Siteu in a positive way. You think too hard and you start thinking negative, you're gonna lose that fight. So try not to think about it in that way, but that passion and that anger, Siteu, comes from that burning desire, that burning passion, because he wants to win. He wants to be the king of the thrones.